Long ago, in the land of Canaan, a boy was born who would change the course of history. His name was Joseph. He was the son of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham, the great patriarchs of Israel. Joseph was the firstborn of Rachel, Jacob's beloved wife. But Joseph wasn't just any child. He was different. He was chosen, and his father knew it. Joseph had 10 older brothers. Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun were the sons of his father's first wife Leah. Dan and Naphtali, the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's maidservant who married Jacob. Gad and Asher are the sons of Zilpah, Leah's maidservant, Jacob's fourth wife. On the 12th day of the second month of the year, Rachel passed away while giving birth to Benjamin, Jacob's youngest and 12th son. Joseph was 17 years old and worked as a shepherd. He often spent time with his half-brothers, especially the sons of Jacob's maidservant wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. Joseph had a special place in his father's heart. As a sign of his deep love, Jacob gave Joseph, his then youngest son, a magnificent coat of many colors, woven with care and shimmering in the sunlight. But this was more than just a beautiful gift. It was a symbol of Joseph's destiny for greatness. His brothers, however, saw it as a sign of favoritism, and their jealousy burned. To make matters worse, Joseph would report to their father any wrongdoing he witnessed among them. And then there were the dreams. One night, Joseph had a dream. He and his brothers were binding sheaves of wheat in the field. Suddenly, Joseph's sheaf stood tall, while his brothers' sheaves bowed before it. "So, you think you are destined to reign over us? Do you truly believe we will bow before you?" Joseph had another dream. This time, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. When he told his family, even his father was surprised. "Shall your mother and I and your brothers bow to you?" His brothers' jealousy turned to hatred. They whispered among themselves. They plotted. They waited. One day, Jacob asked Joseph to check on his brothers. Eager to fulfill his father's request, Joseph set out. As he wandered the field searching for them, he met a man, none other than the angel Gabriel, disguised as a simple traveler. "I'm looking for my brothers. Tell me, where are they pasturing?" The man told him that his brothers had gone to Dothan, but he also warned Joseph of the danger that lay ahead. Yet Joseph, steadfast in his mission, pressed on to Dothan to find his brothers. When they saw him approaching in the distance, they saw their chance. "Here comes the dreamer. Let's kill him and tell father a wild animal devoured him." But Reuben, the eldest, stepped in. "No! Let's not kill him. Let's throw him into this pit instead." Reuben planned to save him later. They stripped Joseph of his precious coat and tossed him into a deep, dark pit without any water, but full of snakes and scorpions. The walls were steep, the ground cold. He called out, but no one listened. The brothers broke bread, and Reuben left. It was his turn to go take care of their father. And then, the sound of footsteps, the jingling of camel bells, a caravan of Arab merchants carrying spices, stacte, and lotus was passing by on its way to Egypt. Judah, his fourth oldest brother, took a stand. "What do we gain by killing him and being responsible for his blood? Let's sell him as a slave." And so, for 20 silver coins, Joseph was sold, dragged away in chains, betrayed by his own flesh and blood. He disappeared into the horizon. The brothers took Joseph's coat, dipped in the blood of a goat, and brought it to their father. "Father," they said, "look what happened to your son." Jacob was heartbroken. A wild animal has killed his son. Jacob mourned for many days over Joseph, never getting over the pain. In Egypt, Joseph was bought by Potiphar, the priest of On, a high-ranking officer of the Egyptian king Pharaoh. Though he was a slave, Joseph never lost faith. For 10 years he worked hard. and everything he touched flourished. He was handsome too, and everyone he met was impressed by his presence. This young Hebrew has God's blessing. He never forgot from where he came. His father's image was etched in his mind all the while he was in Egypt, surrounded by strangers. Potiphar placed Joseph in charge of his entire household, but trouble was coming. Potiphar's wife wanted Joseph for herself. She tried to lure him, but Joseph stood strong. How can I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? She grabbed Joseph's jacket, and Joseph ran away, leaving her with Joseph's jacket in her hand. Angry and humiliated, she screamed. Guards rushed in. Look, he tried to attack me. Joseph was dragged away, accused of a crime he did not commit, thrown into the dark, damp depths of an Egyptian prison. Even in prison, Joseph remained faithful. He gained the trust of the prison warden and was soon overseeing the other prisoners. One night, two of Pharaoh's servants, the royal baker and royal butler, had troubling dreams. They awoke disturbed, searching for meaning. Tell me your dreams. God will provide the answer. The butler spoke first. In my dream, there was a vine before me. On the vine were 3 branches. As it budded, its blossoms came forth, and clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. I took the grapes, pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in his hand. Joseph nodded. The 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will restore you to your position, and you will once again place the cup in his hand, just as before. The baker, seeing that the interpretation was good, spoke next. In my dream, there were 3 baskets of white bread on my head. In the uppermost basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but birds were eating them out of the basket on my head. Joseph's face grew solemn. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will have you executed, and birds will eat your flesh. And so it was. 3 days later was Pharaoh's birthday party, and he reinstated the butler to serve wine once again. The baker, on the other hand, was hanged. Joseph begged the butler to remember him before Pharaoh. This was a mistake. Joseph should rely on God alone to redeem him. The butler forgot about him. 2 years passed. Joseph remained a prisoner, but he kept his faith strong. Then, one night in the royal palace, Pharaoh woke up in terror. He had seen a vision: 7 fat cows swallowed by 7 thin cows, but they remained thin. He had a second dream: 7 healthy stalks of grain devoured by 7 withered ones. They too remained weak. He demanded answers, but no one could explain. His advisors tried all sorts of ideas, but none of them had the right interpretation. Then the butler remembered. Your Highness, I have sinned. For only remembering today, when we were in jail, there was a young Hebrew who was able to interpret dreams, and they came true. Bring him in, said Pharaoh. The guards went to get Joseph from prison. They cleaned him up, gave him a haircut, and brought him to the king. Joseph heard the dreams. King Pharaoh, these dreams are one dream. God has shown you the future. 7 years of plentifulness are coming, followed by 7 years of terrible famine. But Joseph wasn't done. There is a solution. You must store food now from the entire land of Egypt. Everyone must bring their wheat to store it in order to survive what is to come. Pharaoh was amazed. Yes, this is it. This is the meaning of my dream. Can you find anyone else like him in the entire land of Egypt with the Spirit of God in him? Joseph, the forgotten prisoner, became the second most powerful man in Egypt. There is no one wiser than you. You shall rule beside me. Pharaoh names Joseph, who's now 30 years old, Zaphnath Paneah, which means he who deciphers the cryptic. He gets paraded around town in great honor and is given Asenath for a wife. She's the stepdaughter of Potiphar, whom Joseph worked for 10 years. Her birth mother is Dinah, Joseph's sister. For 7 years, Joseph gathered food from all the land and stored it, saving up for the famine about to come to Egypt. Joseph and Asenath have 2 beautiful children, Manasseh and Ephraim. Then the famine struck, and it struck hard. People had only one choice to survive. That was to buy wheat in Egypt. Joseph sold the grain and became extremely wealthy, from the wealthiest people ever to live. The famine spread to other lands as well. Jacob heard that there was food in Egypt, so he sent his sons to go down to Egypt. He kept Benjamin, now 22, behind. He already lost one son, he's not losing another one, especially not Rachel's youngest son. The brothers traveled to Egypt for food. There, they arrived at Joseph's court. Joseph recognized them and was in shock. He decided to test them. He accused them of being spies. They explained that they were 12 brothers. Joseph is dead, and they have a brother, Benjamin, who stayed behind in Canaan. Joseph demanded to see Benjamin. Go back to Canaan and bring this Benjamin here. Then I'll see if you're telling the truth. Meanwhile, he held their brother, Simon, captive. The brothers brought Benjamin to Egypt. Joseph saw Benjamin for the first time since he was a baby. He was emotional, but kept it together. He accused Benjamin of stealing his goblet. This way, he can spend more time with him as he's dealing with the brothers. The one who stole my goblet will remain here as my slave. The rest of you, go home to your father. Judah stepped forward. His voice was steady but filled with fire. This cannot happen. I swore to my father that I would bring him back safely. And this was not just an empty promise. Before leaving Canaan, Judah had personally guaranteed Benjamin's return. He had told Jacob, "If I do not bring him back to you, I will be eternally guilty before you." Judah did not just put his honor on the line, he put his very portion in the world to come at risk. He had no choice. He had to bring Benjamin home. But the Egyptian ruler remained unmoved. And yet, the law is the law. Judah's eyes burned with fury. His voice thundered, shaking the very walls of the palace. His rage cracked the stone beneath his feet. His roar was so powerful that all of Egypt trembled. Now things get even crazier. Judah's nephew Hushim, the son of Dan, was deaf. He couldn't hear, but he had other heightened senses. He felt the vibration of the floor trembling from miles away. He knew this could only be one thing, his uncle Judah. So he hurried his way over to the palace where Judah and his brothers were. He found them and roared with Judah. He is here to help destroy Egypt. Joseph saw that they were serious. He was a man of strength himself. Joseph crushed a pillar of stone like it was a piece of cake. Judah realized he was dealing with someone serious. He sent his brother Naphtali to find out how many marketplaces Egypt had. There are 12. That's it. Judah would destroy the entire Egypt with his brothers. I'll take on 3, and the rest of you 9 will take on 1 each. Joseph saw the fire in Judah's eyes. He remembered the strength his brothers had when they killed the whole Shechem to avenge their sister, Dinah. If Judah declared war, nothing would be left standing. Joseph knew. It was time his brothers stood frozen. Was this real? The brother they had betrayed was now their savior. Do not be afraid. It was God's plan that I come to Egypt to save lives. Joseph brought his entire family to Egypt, where they lived in peace. Jacob, now an old man, wept tears of joy, embracing his lost son. His favorite years were the final 17 years of his life spent in Egypt, with Joseph and the entire family. Joseph introduced Jacob to Pharaoh too. Before Jacob died, he blessed all his children, including Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. Joseph came into Jacob's room to get a blessing for Ephraim and Manasseh. Being that Manasseh was older, Joseph placed him near Jacob's right hand, and Ephraim near Jacob's left hand. A blessing with the right hand is a sign of greater merits than the blessings of the left hand. But Jacob saw a future in Ephraim that Joseph couldn't see. Joshua, the great leader of the Jewish people, would come from the trade of Ephraim. Joseph lived a long life, always remembering God's guidance. Before he passed at age 110, he made his family promise that one day, when God would take them out of Egypt, they would bring his bones back to the Holy Land. 200 or so years later, during the Exodus, the Jews left Egypt in a hurry, but still made sure to bring Joseph's bones with them. And so ends the incredible story of Joseph, the dreamer, the ruler, the man of faith, betrayed, yet never broken, tested, yet never lost. His journey was one of hardship and triumph, of faith and destiny. And his legacy, it lives on forever. The story of Joseph, a legacy of faith, forgiveness, and divine purpose. Please tell us, what part of Joseph's story talks to you most? Who would you like to hear about next? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss another video.